Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and today we are so excited. We are joined with the one, the only Brian Scally to discuss season 40 of The Challenge, a monumental season for the show. And we couldn't have asked for anyone better to cover it with us than someone who has their own podcast all about The Challenge, the Free Agents podcast. So, Brian, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, hello, Michael Molly. Thank you so much for having me on. I still cannot believe that the Challenge 40 is actually happening, that the most monumental season of the Challenge is about to premiere, and we just all know it's coming, and that's something that I have to live with on a daily basis.
I know. It makes me feel so old. Just to think, like, I feel like we were just watching season 30, and I felt like we were still for so long, like, just over the 30 hump, kind of, and now all of a sudden we're at 40, and I don't know what to do with myself. But
No, I feel the exact same. I mean, please, I feel like I was just watching Gauntlet too, so it is
yeah,
very bizarre.
very true. I know. But before we jump in, Brian, for any of our listeners who may somehow not be aware, I mean, you're a household name in my house, but, for anyone who somehow might not be aware, tell us a little bit about your history with the challenge, how you got started with watching it and covering it for RHAP and the Free Agent podcast, like I mentioned. What was your beginning with it?
Ooh, so my name's Scally. I've been watching The Challenge since I was much too young to be watching. Sneaking episodes constantly. Probably around Battle of the Sexes 2 or so. I was catching those like day-long marathons of seasons and pretty much stuck with it the whole way through, revisiting some as they came. But the way that I got involved in watching The Challenge was as an RHAP fan, went to an RHAP event, trying to go listen to Rob Has a Podcast in person, met Colin Stone and Dom Harvey of the Dom and Colin podcast, became friends with them, and randomly Colin was like, hey, you want to talk about the challenge on a podcast? I jump on. I felt like I make the biggest mistake of my life. I felt incredibly nervous. And flash forward to now spinning that off into the Free Agents podcast, which we talk about the challenge on a weekly basis year round at this point.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We love Matt Lagori, your co-host on Free Agents podcast. Yeah, I love listening to that. I do. Was listening to it earlier today, in fact. All right, let's get started now with season 40. What was your overall impression of the cast, Scally, when you first saw it come out? Leak, technically, I guess, in the days before filming. What was your initial impression of the cast?
So I think that I was pretty, I'm going to say, not overwhelmed, but very whelmed. I think that if I had not seen all of these people return mostly pretty recently on an All Stars, I would have been like, holy crap, how the hell did they get all these people? These are some of the biggest names of the franchise across all eras of the show. So I do think it is a really, really good cast. Now, there are one or two, three maybe names that are big surprises, big returns. I did not think they would get for this long of a season in particular, but I would say overall, like a very, very solid cast for my expectations, especially at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that, like you said, a lot of them had kind of come back for All Stars 4 that we just had seen right when this started filming. So I think, like, the names like Avery and people like that we may have been really kind of unexpected. Rachel Robinson, of course.
Yep.
Like, these people like that, we would have been shocked, I think, to see them had All Stars 4 not happen. We would have been really surprised to see them here. But I guess without that, or with that, Aviv was really kind of the only real, like, whoa, we hadn't seen her in many, many years.
Yeah. And honestly, probably the second longest layoff is like Jenny West, which is so weird.
Yeah. And that's weird that
But
that's a long time, because that was just 35. That was Total Madness, but it feels like
literally.
forever.
Yeah. I guess Emily Schramm is another one that stands out as
True.
kind of a long layoff. But in general, like I said, despite how recently they had been back or not, I think these are like huge, huge, huge names from the franchise.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. So we know that the basic starting format of the season is that the challengers are separated into 4 teams based on the era in which they started on the show. The season will begin with this Era Invitational, they're calling it, where I guess it's presumed that one guy and one girl from each of the teams will be cut at that point. I don't know that that's been officially confirmed that it'll be one guy and one girl. It might just be two people or one person. I'm not entirely sure if that's been confirmed, but then at that point, once they get done with that, then the teams will compete against each other from that point forward. So, do you like that format?
Like, I get why they have to do it because 40 is so unmanageable, whereas 32 is getting us to about a regular size challenge cast. So I understand why, but oh wow, I am nervous for some of my faves,
Oh.
especially because I just think that a purge can be done in such a way that is really putting just anyone at risk, and I don't always trust the challenge to like to treat my faves the best, but at the same time, like, I don't want it to be like be able to look at the list and be like, okay, well, that guy's going home, that girl's going home, that guy's going home. Like, I would prefer it be fairly balanced and not as predictable, but I'm still nervous.
Yeah, I think it depends how they do it because I guess like they could add in some sort of social element to it that I guess would be beneficial depending on who we're talking about. But yeah, I hope that it's not just physical. Like I hope it's not kind of like what they did in Vendettas where they had to hike that whole mountain and it was just two people went home and there was no sort of like gameplay element. It was just strictly physical. So I hope they don't do that, especially with how many people it sounds like might be cut here.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this could go in a direction where I'm thrilled to lose the 8 exact people who go home, or
yeah,
it could be like, oh, this season's now unwatchable, which would be a gross exaggeration, but I know that,
yeah. We have a pretty solid cast. I'm pretty good. Like excited that
yeah,
even if we lose 8 great people, we're still going to have some people to root for. But
for sure. Yeah, no, that is just me being dramatic.
yeah, no, I feel you. Let's kind of focus in on each era here. So for each, I guess let's talk about the strength of the team as a whole. We think, and who we're kind of keeping an eye on, who we think might leave early here. So we can kind of just talk about each era as a whole. So era one, we have Anissa, Brad, CT, Darrell, Derek, Jody, Katie, Mark, Rachel, and Tina. What are your thoughts on that team as a whole and kind of who are your standouts?
Ooh, I think this team is really strong. Like, both from a physical competitor standpoint, but also from a personalities. I think, especially on the guy side, it's harder to pick 5 like bigger staples from Era One than these 5 specifically. So I think they did a really good job. And even on the women's, it's like, I mean, if they're not top 5, they're 6 or 7 from Era One. Like, they're all very high on the list. So I think this was extremely well put together. I am a little worried for like my girl Katie Cooley. I don't know how that's gonna go. She's a little small. She's not really, I think, the most competitive person on this list, but overall, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I think the guys side of here is really the standout. I feel like you said, like I feel like the girls. I mean, there's some strong girls. Rachel, of course,
Yep.
but I feel like the guys are really like. I mean, with you can't beat CT, Derek, Brad, Darrell, like that. I mean, that's just insane. So I feel like the guys are going to carry this team a bit, but yeah, it's pretty strong overall. I would say.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that this is era one of the challenge and multiple of these guys either are or would love to be still competing on the main era, like show with regularity throughout the seasons and are physical enough to do that is wild.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, I think, would love to not just be an anniversary hire here.
Yep.
I mean, he's been season 10, 20, 30, 40, but we don't see him much kind of in between that lately. But yeah, no, I would say, very strong team. How do you think it stacks up against the others
Hmm.
as a whole?
I think that it's pretty good. Like, I really am not looking at Era One as a team thinking that they are going to get blown out of the waters by any means. I think there's certain people on the team that might struggle in an elimination once it's one-on-one matchups, but I think
Mhm.
as a full team, I think they're going to be doing just fine in dailies.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. All right. Well, let's move on to Era 2 then. We have Aviv, Brandon, Cara, Derek, Emily, Johnny Bananas, Kellyanne, Laurel, Nehemiah, and Ryan Kehoe. What are your thoughts on Era 2
Era 2, as to even seeing the list immediately, it's like very top heavy, probably is how I would describe it. There are some of the biggest names in the franchise yet again here, but then there's also a lot of question marks. Whether it be people that were on, frankly, like 2 seasons of the main show, maybe 3, and then end up here, or people that you wouldn't necessarily have thought as, either the biggest characters or the best competitors. But then when you go back and look at Era 2, I don't really know who that is not banned from the challenge is a better representation of Era 2. So
here? Yeah.
I am not mad at it either.
Yeah. No, and I forgot to ask this for Era 1, but like, yeah, who from, I guess now we'll just say either of these two eras. Is there anyone who you wanted to see here or surprised not to see here that you can think of?
Oh my god, let me pull up. I literally have a list.
I know. It's like just mind goes blank when, yeah. No, I feel you. But no,
Yeah, let me get back to you on that as we go.
okay, yeah, no, you're good. I feel like with this team, whereas I think Era 1's much stronger with the guys, I feel like Era 2 is really strong with the girls. I mean,
Yeah.
you have Cara, Laurel, Emily. I mean, that's kind of unbeatable almost. I mean, I feel like they're going to really thrive in any girls' days, or I don't know exactly how they're going to do this season, whether there's girls' days and guys' days or one of each time. But I guess with so many people, they're going to have to do one of each.
Yeah, no, I
would think. But
I completely agree. It feels like, oh, these could be like the top 3 women on any season of the challenge, and you wouldn't be surprised at all.
And it kind of was on All Stars 4.
I mean, literally. And Kellyanne and Aviv, obviously, no slouches in their records either. So you wouldn't be surprised to see them do well necessarily either.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about Aviv, because I started watching with Rivals 1. It was my first challenge season. So I've seen a little bit before that, but Aviv is, of everyone here, the only person who I am just not familiar with really at all. So is there anything that we should know about Aviv?
Even if you watch the season, I mean, blink and you might miss her, to be honest. She has a much lower key edit on the show. She comes in, does 1 season of the challenge. Spoiler alert, she does win that 1 season.
Right.
And then I don't know if she never even got a call again after that, or if she was just saying no. I don't remember the exact lore. I believe it was that she didn't get a call.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me. But
she was Jenny. She won and then got ghosted.
Yeah, bye. So I think that she was known as like a very strong, pretty good daily competitor, very strong in like a final, and the eliminations on the fresh meat seasons are basically mini finals. So it was a season in which she was set up very well to do, and also had a great partner in Darrell. So I think she is known as very strong, very physical, but in terms of how she'll do on season 40, you could have a random person off the street and I would know just as much about them.
Yeah, and one day they're gonna do that, honestly, and I will fully support it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I did pull up the list. Like, this is where I would like love to see a Paula, but we're never getting a Paula back. You would think we would see like an Evelyn or a Sarah Rice, but I just think that Era 2, low key, especially then when you go through the guys, like it's Wes and then like kind of no one else that's missing here. It is Era 2 was so firmly still about Era 1, and then maybe like 3 other people.
Yeah. Are you surprised that Wes didn't actually he followed through with his not coming on this season?
I'm not surprised that Wes followed through, because I think Wes is very stubborn and proud. And I think that if Wes says something, he's generally going to follow through on that. Now, I think that he has expressed some regrets over it. Not necessarily that he wishes he had done the challenge instead of the other shows that he may or may not have done. Yeah. But I think that there's just the regret of having not been there. Like, he looks at this cast and I look at this cast and he's like obviously the number 1 standout of like, yeah, Wes, I'm kind of mad at you for not being here.
Right. Now, Molly, hi Molly, by the way.
I do know
um,
Wes. Yeah.
yeah, because you watched USA too, so you saw Wes's retirement speech there. Are you surprised based on watching that he's not here?
Yeah, I mean, based on what you just said, Scally, it makes sense if he was so stubborn about him just saying that he's not going to do it, he won't do it. I was hoping he would go back on his word on that because I did really enjoy watching him. I felt like he was a really strong competitor and would be a really strong asset in season 40. So obviously, sad to not see him, but I mean, if he wants to stick to his word, he's going to stick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that he's someone who's so business minded that he's thinking like, if
Mhm.
I said I was going to retire and then just give in when it's not like they're throwing some huge paycheck at me or they're not doing whatever, then like I have nothing to negotiate with in the future. So that's Wes.
Yeah, that's true. And this is a much longer filming process than like House of Villains. So, I mean, like
Much.
I get like I guess it does kind of make sense based on his explanation of why he didn't do it, but yeah, that is really I feel like the one kind of bummer of the biggest one at least that I can think of that's not here. But
Yeah.
moving on to Air 3 here. So we have Amanda, Avery, Corey, Devin, Janae, Jordan, Leroy, Naya, Tony, and Tori. What are your thoughts on Air 3 as a whole here?
Okay. I really like Era 3. I think if I had to pick a team that like I think could be stronger overall, it might like low key be Era 3. I don't know
Hmm.
why. I think that there's a lot of good picks in Era 3 that like could have made some reappearances, and I don't really know why we didn't get them. I think they have some standouts in here, like a Jordan, a Tori, a Devin, like that are really strong, but a Janae.
Hmm.
But I am a little worried about some other people on this era. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like this is going to be the era that provides the most drama for us.
Yes.
I mean, any team with Amanda on it is going to have the drama here, especially when she's on with Tori. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, I agree. I think it is a pretty solid group. I mean, I feel like Janae's been hit or miss. I mean, like she won two in a row and then hasn't done great since then. So I don't know. That's kind of a toss up to me. I still feel like we didn't see a ton of Avery on All Stars 4. She was kind of very much under the radar. She made it pretty far, but I feel like she could be kind of go either way. And then unfortunately, I feel like if I can think of anyone that's really gonna be screwed by this era invitational, I feel like it might be Amanda. And I hate to say that because
Yeah.
look, I'm with you and Matt on this. I'm an Amanda stan, so I really hate to say that, but I feel like whether it's physical or social, I don't know with this team she's on how that's gonna go.
Yeah, especially social. Amanda is
Yeah.
someone who, there's like, if you're an Amanda fan, you are riding the ups and the downs. Like, she is going to bring you on a ride through her challenge career, again, both competitively and as a person. And she is going to be taking every low blow on that ride along the way. But I don't know. That's what makes me nervous is you could lose someone like Amanda in the first 30 minutes of a season. And I mean, not that I think that hasn't happened before. Was it on Dirty 30? Did
It
she
was
go
Dirty
in the
30,
purge?
yeah. Now that we had
Yes.
a redemption house, so at least we got to see her a little bit longer. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because Jenna had the decision, and of course, that was a pretty easy choice for her.
Yeah. Are we getting a redemption house, do you think, here?
I doubt it. Just because we already
I
have
kind of
so
agree.
many people, I feel like there's no way they are. I mean, we'd have to have like a 30 episode season, which look, I'm all for. But I don't think that I feel like, yeah, they can't have a redemption house here.
I
But they
don't
should
think they
have.
will. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so of two minds where, I mean, I wish that they just had a full length season where like a extended season where they just went home one by one, or two by two, send them
Hmm.
home, like a one man and one woman goes home every episode. But I do think allegedly this filming schedule was a little bit shorter than most like full challenge
Oh,
seasons.
shorter, really?
I
Okay.
think it was. So I
So
don't know
they
that that
must.
will, yeah, I don't know that that will translate to episode number, the episode count
Right.
being shorter. But I do think that it was kind of like, okay, we need to get all of these people who are actual grown-ups on the show. Maybe that means less time.
Yeah, no, but I feel like they did almost the opposite of like what Survivor Winners at War did, because they purposely did it in order to get big names back. They basically guaranteed them, you're all going to be on every episode because we're going to have the Island of Extinction. And
Yep.
here they were like, I guess they're going to get the names by just cutting the filming shorter. So I guess that makes sense.
Look,
Yeah, how
to
did
those
the
people.
redemption work in the past seasons? Because I haven't seen that in the
Ooh.
challenge.
Yeah, so there's been like different ways. There's been a redemption house on a couple different seasons where generally, if people got purged in the first episode or the first couple of eliminations, they would go into the redemption house, and then at multiple points during the season, they would have like a redemption challenge, and whoever won the challenge would get to re-enter the house, and then they would send everyone home, and then the redemption house would start all over again. Generally, is how
Unless it was Final Reckoning, where they made it incredibly complicated by
Yep.
having some sort of game in the Redemption House where, like, some people stayed, some people went back in the game, some people just
Yep.
stayed in Redemption. It was way too complicated. But
Yeah.
most of the time, yeah, that's how it worked. Okay, so yeah, so Era 3, yeah, I feel like the standouts, I mean, Jordan obviously going to carry this team. Tori going to carry it for the girls' side, I feel like. But overall, yeah, I feel like there's not a lot of like really weaker names on this team. So I agree with you. I think this could be a sleeper team.
Yeah, it's
whatever.
tough. Like, I don't think that it's like a weak team, but I see less like standouts. So like I enjoy, let's say, like Leroy, Tony, Corey. Like, I think that they all have their strengths, but they often fail to convert on the win percentage that they might otherwise be considered to have. So
Yeah.
I am a little nervous that maybe when put up against some of these titans of the challenge, it just doesn't work out for them.
Yeah, I could see that. But let's move on now to Era 4 here. So we have Horacio, Jenny, Josh, Casey, Kylan, Michelle, Nerys, Olivia, Polly, and Theo. Now, what are your overall thoughts on Era 4 here?
I feel like I'm kind of an Era 4 apologist. And maybe that's just because I have to convince myself that I love everything more than I do because I'm talking about it all the time. But I think there's so much strength in Era 4 that is still generally overcoming the bad decisions that production is making, whether that be in only bringing back people like once or twice and throwing away a lot of the rookie talent that they did have, or weird twists in the game and bad game format. So I think that there are a lot of people, you know, that were, whether they're here or left on the bench in Era 4, that have a lot of potential for the future of the challenge.
Yeah. Now, Molly, you're actually familiar probably with the most people on this era as a Big Brother and Survivor fan. So what are your thoughts on those that you're aware of here?
Well, I'm excited to see Michelle again. I loved seeing her on other seasons of the challenge I've seen, and also with Survivor being one of my favorite shows. So I hope that she makes it pretty far this season. Also with Josh, I feel like he's just entertaining to watch, and he's also a strong competitor. So those are my two standouts, I would say, from this era.
Yeah. I think that the other strength of Era 4 is just that they're more familiar with the current game the way it is now. Whereas maybe some of the older eras have more people who haven't been on in a long time, or just kind of aren't maybe as socially involved with the kind of the current cast that's been around the last few years. So I think that could also probably work to their advantage.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how some of these people are connected socially, because you have someone like Kylan who's really only been in the MTV world for the last 6 months. He was on Challenge USA before that, and then probably has met no one. But also, if I know anything about Kylan, it's that he's showing up to a reality TV event, so he maybe has met more people than he otherwise would have.
Yeah, that's probably true. Because he's been technically in the, Paramount family, I guess, for 3 years now. So he probably has met more people than we're necessarily aware of. But yeah, I think that I'm also curious to see how Nerys and Olivia are this season starting out, and Horacio after everything that happened last year. I think that could be very interesting now that they are on a team together. So I hope that they both last long enough to. I feel pretty confident that they'll both make it out of the Air Invitational.
Yeah,
but
it's so
I'll be
hard.
curious.
It's hard. I mean, someone's got to go home, and I think that this team is really not, like, I know people are going to point to Josh and say probably the weaker link on the team, but I don't think Josh is that weak. I think Josh could win a season of the challenge. And
Hot take.
I've been saying that for a little bit. I did not think
Yeah,
so
you
back
have.
in the day, but I think the strength of his social game can carry him to a final, and I think he can win a final. Like, that is kind of where I'm at this point. So, like, that's the only disqualifier for me in can you win a season of the challenge or not, is can you win a final?
Yeah,
Because you can avoid an elimination, but you can't avoid the
many
final.
have. Oh, do we think that there's going to be like a skull star twist this season that you have to win an elimination?
I think I would bet on no, you don't have to.
Yeah.
We've strayed so far from the skull twist. I know that the stars were there for all stars. I think I've heard rumors that they might come back in the future for other all-star seasons, but I don't know
Mm.
about Challenge 40. I think maybe we stay away from it. I don't know. I'm scared now.
No, I agree. I feel like they won't do, because I feel like this is such a celebration of the show as a whole, and that is such a kind of a recent twist that I feel like they're going to want to, like, I feel like they're probably, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like the average age of this cast is probably older than most. And so I feel like they wouldn't do something like that that would hinder maybe some of the earlier names that are, starting to get a little older, and maybe if they have to win an elimination wouldn't make it as far as if they didn't have to.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
true.
But okay, so now we've kind of gone through all the eras here. So if you had to pick, which era do you think the winner will be from?
Ooh. I'm really looking, and I am trying to see which team has the most finals threats on it.
Mm,
And for me, frankly, it's really hard to bet against Jordan anytime that he's on cast, or
yeah.
CT. So, like, that's my real reservation, is do I want to bet on all of era 4, or do I want to bet on Jordan and CT? So that's where I'm looking right
Mm,
now. And I think by sheer numbers, I do think era 4 has some really, really strong finals competitors.
yeah. I feel like the only reason I'm going to bet against Jordan is because he's been kind of complaining about production lately. And I feel like maybe if he had won, he wouldn't be doing that.
Ooh.
But that's just kind
Oh,
of a
please.
conjecture that I'm making in my mind here.
I don't bet on Jordan having any social graces. So I
That's true.
think he will do
Yeah.
what he wants when he wants.
Yeah. Molly, what do you think?
I'm going with Era 4 here. I feel like, I mean, that's one I know the most on, so I'm just going biased on the people I like. But I think that I think the people on that team are gonna do well.
Yeah. Okay, well, just in an effort to be different here, I think I'll go with Era 2. I feel like the
Ooh.
females on Era 2 are hard to bet against. And they have bananas, which always an easy one to, assume is probably going to make it pretty far here. So, yeah, I think I'll go with Era 2.
I like it.
Um,
Do
yeah.
you think they're going to be running the final in their teams, or will we go
Oh,
solos at some point?
I think solo. Or I think like it could be not in the eras, but I think it could be like teams, pairs that change throughout
Okay.
the final type of thing.
Okay. I could see
Because
that.
is this one winner?
Don't
I can't
know if
remember.
it's.
I read the press release, but I can't remember what it said. Um,
I hope not, frankly. I
I
hope it's
hope
at least
not
one man and one
too.
woman.
Yeah, I hope that. I feel like they would do that for this. I feel like they would. And yeah, if it's two winners, then I feel like they would do the pairs changing thing. If it's one, then I don't know. But
Yeah.
I feel like it won't be in the eras, is my guess.
Yeah. And give away a lot of money for the season. I mean, it's season 40. Like, be
Yeah,
giving out those
Survivor did
second.
2 million
Literally,
for
don't give. Give the second and third place prizes. Don't make first
yeah.
place like award them by out of the goodness of their heart and to the annoyance of me. Like, give it out for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Co-sign all of that. Now, looking ahead to the future here, All Stars 5 is also already filmed
Ooh.
and should be coming up shortly after 40 ends, I would think. Now, I know there's been a little controversy on the cast that some of them shouldn't have been eligible for this season due to how recently they started. What are your thoughts on that? Are you excited about the season based on, I assume you've seen the cast for that?
Yeah, I am excited. It has a lot of people that I am excited about, whether it's that I wanted them on an All Stars cast or I just wanted to see them back on TV in a regular main season.
Mm-hmm.
Probably preferably that one for about half the cast. But I am interested. I think the format is weird in that it's like mixed gendered pairs, some male male,
Yeah,
some
it's
male
very
female, some
Final
female
Reckoning.
female. Yeah, so I don't usually love that because I don't trust the challenge again to balance things right there. But I think that regardless, it's enough fun people that I'm always going to go in with some level of hope and expectation on a season.
Yeah. I'm just excited to see Devon again. So any way we could get her back on the show, I am all for.
Yeah.
And
And
if
that's
it
the
had to
thing.
be, yeah.
No, I was going to say that All Stars 5 might have more like shock returns than season 40.
No, it definitely does, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, like, I mean, Ashley, Sam, Frank, I never thought we would see, I mean, basically the entire San Diego cast back
Yeah.
in the challenge here.
And that's what's
Yeah.
so crazy is that like if they could get, for example, a Frank or a Ashley or whatever, and or slash wanted to cast an Ashley, I'm surprised they did it for All Stars 5 and not for 40.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Ashley's, Ashley Mitchell was another big miss on 40 for me. I think that she so represents Era 3 for me that like the Lavender Ladies and just like I mean, we almost have the entire Lavender Ladies on All Star 5 back, except for Amanda, who's on
Yep.
here instead with none of her friends. But
Yep.
yeah, there definitely were a lot more shock returns on All Stars 5, which I guess is good. I mean, like I feel like 40 is not meant for the shock returns, and I guess it's meant to just kind of a big celebration, whereas All Stars kind of is meant in general for kind of these returns of people we haven't seen in a long time. So in that way, I guess I feel like it succeeded in its mission of All Stars of getting people back who wouldn't have maybe done a main season.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm so curious to see after this season, like, is there anyone, because like Cara and Laurel and Bananas, etc., are popping up on main seasons of the challenge with some frequency. Is there anyone that gets reintroduced to the main run of the challenge and sticks around on the flagship? That's what I'm very curious to see as well.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting. I feel like All Stars is a good way to kind of give soft returns to the show. And like we did see a lot of people from All Stars 4, like we said, come back here now onto the main show. So I think it'll be interesting to see, whether any of those people do stick around. And kind of in that vein, looking ahead to 41, do you think, because after 30, we kind of saw that they made some big changes to the show and adding on the UK people, adding on the Big Brother people. Do you think that they're going to do anything similar to that after 40 for 41, like kind of change the show in any way, starting kind of this new era?
Oh, that's so hard to predict. I never, ever would have guessed that they would start going to Big Brother and the UK and all the internationals. But frankly, I'm glad they did. I know a lot of people are like, stay away from my challenge. But I think that the influx of talent has been great. I do think there's a world in which we get a few more of these old names back. Like, I could see the reintroduction of like a Derek or a Brad, honestly, back in here. Especially like, I don't know what CT is looking to do as far as his filming schedule or a couple of other people, but I could see them going back to some of the old names of the challenge in Era 5.
I hope so. I think that would be great. And because, I mean, I agree with you. I think that they have to add, like, Real World doesn't exist anymore. Road Rules doesn't exist anymore. So they had to add in all these different shows. And I think, like, to me personally, I feel like the USA 2 cast is kind of the direction that they should go in the future. I think that was such a perfect season. And I hope that we see so many of them. I know they didn't quite fit in this format, people that were introduced in USA, but I hope that in 41 and beyond, we see more of them and people from shows like Survivor, Big Brother, because I feel like that's kind of the natural evolution here of Real World Road Rules is these shows that share such a large percentage of the audience, I would think, of the challenge, and bringing in those people who we get to know on those shows and then continue their journey here.
Yeah, there's so many names that I think back on that were supposed to just be huge name. Like, remember Kells? Remember when everyone was like, we have to send home Kells. He's going to be the next big thing in the challenge. And then we never hear from him again. Like,
Yeah.
I just think that you go through the process of finding these really great people, and then you do that all over again instead of calling back the people that just happened to go home early in the past season. Like, call them, like, use those people just because they happen to go home early one time doesn't mean anything. And so many of the biggest names on the challenge in history, like an Evelyn, a Bananas, etc., went home first on their first challenge. Go back to the early boots.
Cara,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that whether it be early boots of the 30s or it be some of the international cast, I think really has potential, and I hope they don't get lost forever.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's why, like, I know so many people hated 39 and that cast and format, but I think it was so necessary because there were so many people from 36 through 38 in particular who came in. It was half the cast of those seasons were rookies, and then we never saw them again. And so I think that season, now, should the show have put themselves in that situation where we saw so many people only one season? Probably not. But because they put themselves there, they kind of had to do a season 39 in order for us to actually get to know them. And then, the ones that made enough of an impact came back here, which I guess was only 3, but
I think that there's a world, because it doesn't seem so far as if Challenge USA 3 seems to be on the docket. I remember there was, which, like, I'm upset about. I want that back, but
I do too.
I also feel like there was a rumored spin-off potentially coming at some point. If you want to make that like a Paramount Plus exclusive, like the challenge training ground where you're bringing in some of the people who didn't make like a big enough impact or brand new people to the show, and that's them like getting their stripes before they end up on the main show, like, I'm totally down. I'll watch that for sure.
Yeah, I like that idea. Kind of like a little casting special type thing where we get to see the new faces, the new generation, and then a few of them make it to the challenge. Like almost like kind of like one of those shows where it's like I'm trying to think, like the Glee Project or something. Like,
please, I love.
Like the winner gets a 5-episode arc on season 41 of the challenge.
Exactly, I'm down.
Okay, so we got to talk just a bit about Big Brother here. I know I'm just listening to you on the live update feed this morning with Taryn Armstrong, the lovely Taryn Armstrong. What are your thoughts overall on the season so far? Who are your favorites?
Oh, it's been so fun when they let us watch it. It's been so great to have another season of Big Brother. I know people get burnt out, but knowing that there were no feeds and now no Big Brother Canada at all, I truly left Big Brother 25 like, wow, that was way too long, but I could do it again. So I am excited at the beginning of every new Big Brother season. I think this cast is fully delivering. I have my favorites like a Chemo and a T-Core as far as like my personal faves. I love them, but also my messy faves like, an Angela, which is questionable at the moment, but yeah. Or, at a time at least. So I think that honestly, there's very few people on this cast that I'm not enjoying.
Yeah. No, I agree. I wish we knew how questionable the Angela love should be or not should not be. Unfortunately, we can't know for whatever reason. But no, I agree with you. I think the season is very strong so far. Now we're only 2 weeks in, so that could very much change like it did when Izzy went home last year. But we'll see. I have high hopes.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so anything, Scally, anything you want to plug here before we go?
Ooh, well, thank you first of all so much for having me. This has been really
Thank
fun.
you.
No, please. I've been so excited to talk about the challenge season 40, and we did our previews for it so long ago
Yeah,
that this was a very welcome reintroduction to the cast for my brain. But
good.
if people want to hear more about the challenge season 40, myself and Matt Lagori all will be talking about it all season long over on the Free Agents podcast, which is a ton of fun. People should go check that out. And then otherwise, I guested on The Diary Room, also another Big Brother podcast, where Matt Lagori and Aman Adwin host. They do a little bracket to find the best Big Brother player of all time. That is coming out this week. I guested on Mike Bloom's Top 50 Wishlist podcast for a season this week, so that will be coming out. And anything else I'm doing will be on Twitter at Brian_Scally and on Twitch at twitch.tv/bscally.
All right, perfect. Well, Scally, thank you so much for coming on again. And thank you so much for listening. And we will be back next week with more coverage of Big Brother. And we will be covering the challenge all season long when that starts. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening.